The breaking point Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of Research Station Prometheus, watching the binary stars of the Vega system cast their golden light across the ancient ruins below. The station orbited Kepler-4 for to be a world that had been dead for millennia but held secrets that could change the galaxy's understanding of prehistoric civilizations. Sarah had spent 3 years here with her team, carefully documenting artifacts that predated even the oldest known galactic civilizations. The work was peaceful, methodical, and exactly the kind of scientific endeavor that had defined humanity's reputation among the stars for over 150 years. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as curious researchers, skilled diplomats, and gentle traders who preferred books to blasters and negotiations to warfare. It was a reputation that had served them well, allowing human colonies to spread across hundreds of worlds while other species viewed them as harmless scholars and merchants. Marcus Rivera, Sarah's brightest graduate student, approached with a datapad containing the day's findings. At 24, he reminded Sarah of herself at that age, brilliant, eager, and convinced that knowledge could solve any problem the universe presented. He had discovered something remarkable in the lower excavation site, a crystalline structure that seemed to contain vast amounts of stored information. "Dr. Chen, you need to see this," Marcus said, his eyes bright with excitement. "The quantum resonance patterns in the crystal matrix are unlike anything we've encountered before. I think we might have found a complete database of the civilization that built these ruins." Sarah smiled at his enthusiasm while reviewing the data. The discovery could provide insights into galactic history that went back millions of years, potentially revealing how life had spread across the stars long before current species had developed space travel. It was the kind of find that made decades of careful excavation worthwhile. Dr. James Park, the team's archaeologist, joined them at the observation window. He had been monitoring long-range sensors as part of his routine duties when something unusual appeared on his screen. A small fleet of ships had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, and their configuration didn't match any known human or friendly alien designs. "Sarah, we have visitors," James reported with concern in his voice. 5 large vessels, definitely military configuration. The sensor profile matches Zephyrian Empire warships. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. The Zephyrian Empire was known throughout the galaxy as an aggressive species that believed in expanding their territory through conquest rather than negotiation. They were reptilian humanoids with superior physical strength and a culture that viewed diplomacy as weakness. More importantly, they had never shown interest in archaeological research or scientific discovery. Lieutenant Commander Anna Walsh, the station's communications officer, began monitoring the incoming transmissions. She had served in Earth's diplomatic corps before joining the research mission and was skilled at interpreting alien communication protocols. The Zephyrians were broadcasting on standard Galactic Council frequencies, but their message was far from diplomatic. "Attention, human research facility," came the harsh voice of the Zephyrian commander. "I am War Leader Vex of the Imperial Fifth Fleet. You are occupying territory claimed by the Zephyrian Empire under the right of conquest. You have 1 standard hour to evacuate this system or face the consequences of trespassing on Imperial space." Sarah activated the station's communication array and prepared to respond using standard diplomatic protocols. Humanity had maintained peace with dozens of species through careful negotiation and adherence to Galactic Council law. The Kepler 442 system had been legally registered to humanity through proper channels, with all documentation filed and approved by the Council's Colonization Bureau. War Leader Vex, this is Dr. Sarah Chen, Director of Prometheus Research Station, she replied calmly. The Kepler 442 system was officially assigned to humanity for archaeological research under Galactic Council Resolution 3847. Our research permit was approved 18 months ago, and your empire had the opportunity to file competing claims. During the standard review period, the response came back almost immediately, filled with contempt and amusement. Council laws mean nothing to those with the strength to enforce their will, Vex replied. Your species has grown soft, hiding behind lawyers and bureaucrats. The Zephyrian Empire takes what it desires through superior firepower, not paperwork, filed by weak creatures who fear honest combat. War Leader Vex had spent his entire career studying human behavior and had concluded that they were essentially prey animals who had somehow developed space travel. In 150 years of contact, humans had never initiated military action against any species. They surrendered territory rather than fight, paid tribute instead of resisting, and consistently chose negotiation over confrontation even when facing overwhelming odds. Sarah tried to maintain the diplomatic facade that Earth expected from its representatives. War Leader, I must formally protest this violation of Council law and request mediation through proper channels. We are conducting peaceful research that benefits all galactic civilizations. Surely we can find a solution that respects both our interests. The Zephyrian commander's laughter was like grinding metal. Your archaeological discoveries belong to the Empire now, human. You have 30 minutes to gather your personal belongings and prepare for transport to the nearest Council station. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. 28 minutes later, Zephyrian assault shuttles began their attack run on Prometheus Station. Sarah watched in horror as energy beams tore through the station's outer hull, targeting areas she knew contained research labs and living quarters. The Zephyrians weren't trying to capture the station intact. They were conducting a deliberate attack on civilian researchers who posed no military threat to anyone. Marcus was in the lower excavation site when the first wave hit. The quantum crystalline database he had discovered was destroyed in the bombardment, along with 3 years of irreplaceable research data. Sarah tried to reach him on the communication system, but the signal was lost when debris from the explosion damaged the transmission. Dr. Park coordinated the evacuation of non-essential center personnel while Sarah attempted to establish contact with the attacking fleet. Standard protocols required her to document everything for Earth's diplomatic cause. Even as her team was being systematically murdered by an enemy that viewed human life as worthless. War Leader Vex, we are complying with your demands, Sarah transmitted. We are evacuating the station as requested. There is no need for continued bombardment of civilian research facilities. The reply came back with obvious satisfaction. Humans who resist imperial authority must be taught proper respect. Your species will serve as an example to others who might question Zephyrian superiority. The second wave of attacks targeted the evacuation shuttles. Sarah watched Marcus die when his shuttle was vaporized during takeoff. 17 other members of her research team perished in the attack, including Dr. Park, who had stayed behind to ensure the last group of civilians reached safety. The Zephyrians had deliberately targeted unarmed evacuation craft, turning a forced relocation into a massacre. In that moment, watching her students and colleagues die while their killers laughed about human weakness, Sarah activated a communication. system that had been installed on every human facility but never used in over a century. The emergency beacon connected directly to Earth's military command, using encryption codes that predated humanity's membership in the Galactic Council. Priority: Alpha transmission to Admiral Rebecca Stone, Earth Defense Command. Sarah spoke into the secure communicator. Request immediate response to civilian casualties and systematic violation of Council law. The mask is falling, Admiral. They pushed too far this time. The response came back within minutes using military codes that Sarah had never expected. To hear activated. Admiral Stone's message was brief but carried implications that would change the galaxy forever. Document everything, Dr. Chen. Record all communications, casualty reports, and evidence of unprovoked attacks on civilian targets. The charade has served its purpose, but humanity cannot maintain the peaceful facade when our people are being murdered for entertainment. Protocol Omega is now authorized. The news from the Kepler 442 system reached Earth within 6 hours, and President Elena Rodriguez found herself staring at reports that made her blood run cold. The Prometheus Station massacre had left 21 civilian researchers dead, including graduate students who had been conducting peaceful, archaeological work under proper council authority. President Rodriguez sat in the secure briefing room, beneath the White House, surrounded by advisors who had been waiting for this moment for decades. Admiral Stone spread classified files across the conference table, documents that detailed humanity's true capabilities, hidden since their admission to the Galactic Council 150 years earlier. Madam President, the Zephyrians have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Admiral Stone reported with controlled fury in her voice. They targeted civilian evacuation craft and murdered researchers who posed no threat to anyone. War leader Vex actually broadcast recordings of the attack to other Zephyrian commanders as entertainment. General Marcus Thompson activated a holographic display showing star charts marked with symbols that told a very different story about human expansion into space. For 150 years, humanity had been building a military infrastructure that remained hidden from galactic view, disguised as research stations, mining operations, and civilian shipping networks. Dr. Amanda Foster, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, had spent decades studying galactic civilization and had helped design the behavioral patterns that kept humanity appearing harmless to their neighbors. Her research had shown that most alien species thought in simple predator-prey relationships, unable to conceive of a predator that could successfully pretend to be prey for extended periods. They see us as successful herbivores, Dr. Foster explained calmly, clever enough to build ships and join galactic civilization, but fundamentally weak creatures who avoid conflict because we cannot win fights. The Zephyrians have convinced themselves that humans will submit to any demand rather than risk casualties in actual combat. President Rodriguez had spent her entire political career maintaining the careful diplomatic balance that kept Earth in good standing with the galactic community. The act had served humanity well, allowing them to expand across hundreds of worlds while their neighbors dismissed them as harmless farmers and merchants. Now that act was about to end. Admiral Stone, what is the current status of our hidden fleet assets? The President asked. 47 battle groups positioned throughout human space, disguised as research vessels and cargo haulers, Stone replied. Each group contains enough firepower to eliminate a standard alien fleet. The Zephyrians have no idea what they're about to face. President Rodriguez turned to the secure communication array that would broadcast her next words to every hidden military commander in human space. The message would activate Protocol Omega, the end of humanity's 150-year masquerade as a peaceful species. "This is presidential authorization, Omega-1," she spoke into the communicator. "The mask falls today. Show them who we really are. *hen. The mask falls. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as her hidden fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Around her, 47 ships that had appeared to be civilian research vessels and cargo haulers were rapidly transforming, shedding their disguised hulls to reveal the most advanced warships the galaxy had ever seen. For 150 years, humanity had been building this moment. Every research station had been a military outpost. Every mining operation had been a weapons manufacturing facility. Every civilian cargo hauler had been a warship waiting for the day when the charade would end. War Leader Vex received the sensor readings with confusion rather than alarm. His intelligence reports indicated that humans possessed only basic defensive capabilities and had never demonstrated military technology beyond simple patrol craft. The approaching fleet's energy signatures didn't match anything in Zephyrian databases, but their numbers seemed insignificant compared to the Empire's vast armadas. "Human vessels, you are entering a restricted military zone," Vex transmitted with contempt. "Withdraw immediately or face destruction. The Zephyrian Empire does not negotiate with prey species." Admiral Stone's response came back on all frequencies, broadcast across the galaxy for every species to hear. "War Leader Vex, this is Admiral Rebecca Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have murdered civilian researchers under protection of Galactic Council law. You have attacked evacuation craft carrying non-combatants. You have declared war on humanity through your actions." She paused, allowing her next words to carry the weight of 150 years of hidden preparation. "Now you will learn why we kept the mask on for so long." The battle began with a demonstration that shocked the Zephyrian commander to his core. Human ships moved with impossible speed and precision, their weapons cutting through Zephyrian shields like paper. Technology that had been dismissed as primitive mining equipment revealed itself as advanced military hardware designed specifically to counter every known alien. Defense System. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from the damaged Prometheus station as the human fleet engaged the Zephyrian forces. What she saw defied everything she thought she knew about her own species' capabilities. Human ships were dancing between enemy fire with graceful precision, their return volleys surgically dismantling Zephyrian vessels with minimal waste of energy or ammunition. War Leader Vex found himself outmaneuvered at every turn. His ships, which had dominated dozens of species through superior firepower, were being systematically destroyed by opponents he had dismissed as harmless herbivores. The humans weren't just winning, they were demonstrating a level of tactical sophistication that suggested centuries of military development. "Impossible," Vex snarled as another of his cruisers exploded under precisely targeted human fire. Intelligence reports indicated humans possessed no significant military capability. They have never resisted imperial expansion before. His communications officer looked up from her station with fear in her reptilian eyes. "War Leader, we are receiving transmissions from across human space. Similar fleets are engaging our forces in 12 other systems. They were waiting for us." The realization hit Vex like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't been weak. They had been patient. For 150 years, they had allowed other species to view them as prey while building a military infrastructure that could challenge the galaxy's most powerful empires. Every diplomatic surrender had been a calculated decision to maintain their disguise. While gathering intelligence on alien capabilities, Admiral Stone coordinated the rescue operation while her fleet finished dismantling the Zephyrian attack force. Human Marines, equipped with armor and weapons that outclassed anything in the Zephyrian arsenal, boarded the damaged research station to evacuate survivors and recover the remains of the murdered civilians. Dr. Chen met the rescue team at the station's main airlock, still stunned by what she had witnessed. The Marines moved with professional efficiency that spoke of extensive combat training, a far cry from the peaceful researchers and diplomats that other species associated with humanity. Dr. Chen, I'm Colonel Hayes, the team leader introduced himself. We're here to get you home and ensure that everyone responsible for this atrocity faces justice. As they prepared to leave the station, Sarah asked the question that was burning in her mind. Colonel, how long has humanity been hiding this capability? Hayes looked at her with eyes that had seen too much combat for someone from a supposedly peaceful species. Since the day we joined the Galactic Council, Doctor, we learned early that the galaxy respects strength, not diplomacy. So we gave them a show of weakness while building the strength to protect what matters. The battle in the Kepler 442 system lasted only 4 hours. When it was over, the Zephyrian Fifth Fleet had been completely destroyed, with War Leader Vex's flagship captured intact to serve as evidence of unprovoked aggression against human civilians across the galaxy. Similar scenes were playing out as human fleets revealed themselves in dozens of systems simultaneously. The coordination was perfect, the result of 150 years of careful planning and preparation for the day when humanity would no longer need to hide behind a mask of peaceful weakness. War Leader Vex found himself in a human detention facility, facing Dr. Sarah Chen across an interrogation table. The Zephyrian commander who had laughed about human weakness now stared at a woman whose species had just demonstrated the most sophisticated military deception in galactic history. You pretended to be prey, Vex said, his voice filled with a mixture of admiration and terror. For 150 years, you convinced the entire galaxy that humans were weak creatures who feared combat. Sarah looked at him with cold eyes that reflected the loss of Marcus and her other murdered colleagues. We didn't pretend to be anything. We chose to be peaceful because peace serves our interests. But when you murder our civilians for entertainment, you discover that humans can be something else entirely. She leaned forward, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's hidden centuries. We studied every species in the galaxy. We learned your weaknesses, your tactics, your psychology. While you dismissed us as harmless herbivores, we were building the capability to end your empire in a single day. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session as reports flooded in from across known space. Humanity, the species that had been viewed as useful mediators and harmless researchers, had revealed itself as potentially the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Ambassador Chen Wei, Sarah's uncle and humanity's representative to the council, stood before the assembled delegates with a speech that would redefine interstellar relations. For 150 years, humanity has chosen peace over conquest, diplomacy over warfare, cooperation over domination. We maintained this choice even when other species viewed our restraint as weakness. He activated a holographic display showing the scope of human military capabilities that had remained hidden for generations. The murder of civilian researchers in the Kepler 442 system has forced us to reveal our true nature. Humanity will no longer hide behind a mask of peaceful weakness. His next words sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. Any species that targets human civilians will face the full might of the Earth Defense Fleet. Any empire that views our previous restraint as an invitation to aggression will discover why we kept our capabilities hidden for so long. The transformation was immediate and total. Species that had dismissed humanity as irrelevant suddenly found themselves re-evaluating every interaction they had ever had with human representatives. The careful diplomats and curious researchers had been gathering intelligence while building a military force capable of challenging any threat in the galaxy. President Rodriguez addressed the human population across hundreds of worlds in a broadcast that marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. My fellow humans, for 150 years we have chosen to appear weak while building the strength to protect what we value most. That era ends today. She stood before a memorial wall displaying the names of Marcus Rivera, Dr. James Park, and the 19 other civilians murdered at Prometheus Station. We will never again hide our true nature when our people are threatened. Humanity takes its place as a guardian of the innocent and a protector of the peaceful across the galaxy. Admiral Stone established the new protocols that would govern human military operations. Research stations would maintain their scientific missions, but would no longer hide their defensive capabilities. Civilian ships would travel under the protection of the most advanced fleet in galactic history. Human colonies would be defended by forces that had trained for 150 years for this moment. Dr. Sarah Chen returned to Earth to find a world that had been transformed by revelation. The gentle researchers and patient diplomats were still there, but they now stood alongside military forces that had been hidden in plain sight for generations. Humanity had dropped the mask to reveal not monsters, but protectors who had been preparing for this day since they first ventured into the stars. The galaxy would never be the same. The species that had been dismissed as prey had revealed themselves as apex predators who had chosen restraint over dominance, wisdom over aggression, and patience over immediate gratification. Humanity had finally shown the galaxy who they really were, and the lesson would not be forgotten. In the end, the Zephyrian Empire learned what many others would discover in the coming years. It's not wise to push the humans too far. When the mask finally falls, you might not like what you find underneath. Asterisk.